7 Sinister Paranormal Encounters Exposed on Camera, Terrifying Footage of the Haunted and Cursed. It was an ordinary autumn night when Danny Ramirez stumbled on a video that turned his life upside down. Flickering lights had become a common nightly occurrence in their modest two-story home, but now whispers crept out of the shadows and a chill settled in the air. The video rattled him. Shaky footage showcasing strange lights dancing ominously in the dark, jump scares that pulled at the very fabric of his suburban reality. 7 Sinister Paranormal Encounters Exposed on Camera, it shouted, each word echoing his worst fears. Goosebumps danced up his arms. What was hiding just beyond their front door? The once lively home now echoed with tension. His father, Miguel, had lost his job. The factory had shut down, his paycheck replaced by wavering uncertainty. He anguished in every gesture, every sigh. Elena tried to soothe him, but the weight of fear pressed against them all. Danny's 16-year-old heart raced, hanging in the balance between teenage angst and the anxiety gripping his family. Tonight felt different, though. The whispers grew louder, mingling with the wind, tugging at the edges of his sanity. He felt watched. The flickering lights above him twisted into ghostly shapes, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the malevolence was breeding within their home. It was late when the storm hit. The wind howled like a banshee, rattling the shutters. The lights blinked, then plunged them into darkness. Panic surged within him. He scoured the house for candles, and it was then that he found his father's old camcorder buried beneath dusty memorabilia. Dust fell like tiny spirits swirling in the faint beam of his flashlight. Curiosity overtook fear as he fumbled through old tapes. What he uncovered froze his breath. Footage of familiar faces, neighbors appearing terrified, shooting wild glances into the shadows where once vibrant street corners now lurked with dread. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Danny felt a tremor in his gut. As the wind howled outside, he excavated deeper into urban legends, tales of the Collins next door, the seemingly perfect couple. Flourishing smiles, a cozy home, nothing could be further from the truth. Whispers hinted at darker ties, sinister rituals buried beneath the streets. And now, with each missing pet report flickering in the neighborhood chat, dread pooled within him. Danny pieced it together. The calm facade of their suburb was crumbling. His heart raced. Shadows loomed larger by the second. Nights were alive with palpable fear. Weird sounds crept in with the darkness. Figures just outside the window danced beyond the veil of their reality. Panic clutched at him. What if the Collins were behind it all? The sacred space he'd called home felt like a cage closing in, keeping a secret he was desperate to unravel. As the wind howled like a dark omen, the doorbell suddenly rang, cracking the stillness that had enveloped them for weeks. Fear gripped Danny's heart. He glanced at his parents, their faces pale, eyes wide. This wasn't just another visitor. Something malevolent was at their doorstep, a presence they thought they could ignore. They had to act, but the tension electrifying the air paralyzed them. Was it too late? What had they awakened? The doorbell rang again, an insistent sound that sliced through the tension like a knife. Danny's heart pounded. He glanced at his parents, their faces pale, eyes wide. This wasn't just another visitor. Something malevolent was at their doorstep, a presence they thought they could ignore. They had to act, but the tension electrifying the air paralyzed them. Was it too late? What had they awakened? The doorbell rang again, an insistent sound that sliced through the tension like a knife. Danny's heart pounded. His parents exchanged a glance of pure dread, the kind only silence can amplify, the kind that felt as thick as the darkness around them. Who could that be? Elena whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know, Miguel replied, the fear creasing his brow. They both looked at Danny, searching for a glimmer of courage that felt lost in the shadows. Danny stole a glance through the peephole, heart racing. He saw a figure cloaked in darkness, barely illuminated by the flickering porch light. It shifted. A woman, her features obscured by the night. "Should I open it?" he asked, though the answer already lay close to his throat. "No," his mother's voice cracked, desperation seeping in. The doorbell rang again, louder this time, almost aggressive. Sweat clung to Danny's palms as he peered closer. What if it's someone who needs help? He ventured, but even he didn't fully believe that. Or it's just something else, Miguel murmured, a tension boiling in the air as unsettling as the storm outside. In the distance, a heavy thrum accompanied the storm, like a heartbeat revealing the monstrous life hiding beneath their lives. Shadows flickered against the walls as the lights continued to pulse, momentarily revealing haunting shapes. "Are we just going to ignore it?" he pressed, though the thought of opening the door filled him with icy dread. "Get back from the door," Miguel ordered, his voice shaking yet authoritative. The doorbell rang again, nearly shattering the fragile resolve within Danny's chest. He found himself inching back slowly, breaths coming shallow. Another glance through the peephole told him she was closer now, leaning slightly as if straining to catch a glimpse inside. "I can't take this anymore," Elena muttered, her hands clasping her chest. "What if it's just a neighbor?" Danny's voice wavered. The words felt inadequate as silence wrapped around them like a thick fog. The figure turned abruptly, as if sensing their scrutiny, and that's when Danny saw it. A flash of something dark, a glint of eyes, unnervingly wide, watching. The screams of forgotten pets echoed back to him, the swirling whispers of rituals lost in the tragedy of the Collins, now clawing into the fabric of his mind. "Danny," his father whispered urgently, "put down that camera." But he couldn't. It was his only shield against the uncertainty threatening to consume them. His shaking hands held tight. The darkness outside felt alive with secrets. Suddenly, without warning, a low, haunting laughter rolled through the doorframe, rippling across the floor like a harbinger of doom, a promise of undoing. "Who's there?" Miguel shouted, trying to be brave despite fear seeping into his words. The figure at the door tilted its head, a slow, deliberate motion that chilled Danny's blood. "Open the door," it called, a voice slithering through, smooth and coaxing. "I know what you fear. Let me in." Danny felt the walls closing in, the weight of compelled choices wrapping around him. The doorknob turned slowly, the creaking sound comparable to the sound of bones cracking. And then, with one trembling breath, he spoke. What if opening that door means losing everything? The answer remained suspended in the air as the winds howled louder, echoing his thoughts. Did he dare to find out what lay beyond? As the door began to crack open, a shadow shifted by the window across the room. Something was watching them, and it wasn't outside anymore. Danny's breath caught. Was the true danger closer than they realized? He turned to his parents, fear electrifying his gaze. "What do we do now?" The shadows whispered softly, wrapping around them like a deadly embrace. The door swung open with a creaking groan that seemed to echo through the empty house. The flickering porch light barely illuminated the figure standing before them, but Danny felt its presence like a glacier of ice creeping down his spine. "Let me in,"
The voice demanded again, smooth and silken, yet wrapped in malice. Every instinct screamed for them to retreat, to barricade themselves away from whatever this was. We can't just let you in." Danny's voice shook, as much with fear as with an adrenaline-fueled resolve. "There's nothing to fear, if you trust me," the woman replied, tilting her head, those unsettlingly wide eyes pinning him in place. The shadows behind her danced and flickered, writhing as if their own sentient beings. Elena gasped, clutching her husband's arm, her nails digging into his skin. "Miguel, we have to call the police. We're not safe here." "Shh," Miguel whispered, his voice low but steady, as if trying to calm a wild animal. "Stay quiet." But even he couldn't suppress the tremor in his voice. "Isn't it peculiar how creatures of the night come knocking?" The woman leaned forward, her smile growing chillingly wide, revealing teeth sharper than they should be. "I can protect you from your fears. All you have to do is invite me in." The storm outside raged louder, rain lashing against the windows like frantic hands begging to be let in.
Inside, the room felt cold, dread filtering in through every crack and crevice. Danny's heart raced. "Go away!" he shouted, feeling both brave and foolish. "We don't want anything you're selling." But it's not me you should worry about, is it?" Her laughter echoed, sending shivers through the bones of the house. The whispers in the shadows morphed into whole sentences, curling and folding around them, speaking of ancient secrets and blood-soaked histories that lingered long past their time. Danny could barely process it all, but he could feel it. Something was watching, lurking just beyond their perception. He backed away, pulling his parents with him, heart pounding, eyes darting. We need to find another way out." But the door behind them was already ajar, a crack wide enough for the encroaching darkness to seep in. The air thickened, suffocating with a chill that clawed at their throats. "Once you see, you cannot unsee," the woman whispered, stepping forward, her feet gliding over the ground effortlessly. Danny caught a glimpse of her hand, long and bony, almost reaching for him. Anxiety twisted in his stomach as he fought back the urge to scream. "She's lying!" Miguel yelled, raising his voice above the cacophony of thunder and wind. "We don't need you! Get away from my family!" The woman paused, her crooked smile fading into a twisted frown. "Oh, you misunderstand," she hissed. "I do not need to be invited. I'm already in you." Danny trembled. The unsettling truth twisted his gut. He could feel it now, a deep, insidious presence curling into his brain, whispering nightmares he didn't yet comprehend. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. Silence enveloped the room before a series of muffled thumps echoed from within the house itself, as though something or someone was moving in the shadows. "Watch out!" Elena cried, her voice ringing with panic as a shape broke the stillness, darting out from the darkness. Danny didn't have time to process the horror unfolding. He felt his heart thud against his chest like a war drum, panic surging through him as he stumbled backward. What was happening? Was the danger really at their door, or had it already crept within? And as the shadows began to close around them, he realized no one was prepared for what lurked just behind the walls. "Run!" Miguel shouted, pushing them towards the back door. But no escape felt certain, as the whisper seemed to encroach from all sides, filling his head with despair. Would they find salvation in flight,
Or had they already unleashed something they couldn't contain? The answer was murky in the enveloping dark, but Danny knew they would find out soon enough. Danny's mind raced as he heard the urgent pounding of Miguel's feet against the floor, nudging him forward. The chill in the air felt alive, wrapping around him as they moved deeper into the house, where the soft glow of their flashlight flickered like a heartbeat.
Each step felt heavier, weighed down by dread and the undeniable feeling that something not human, was coiling in the depths of the shadows. "Where do we go?" Elena whispered, her voice barely above a breath, fear threading through each word. She glanced backward, and Danny followed her gaze, squinting into the dark. It was as if the shadows were breathing, shifting with sinister intent. I don't know. Just keep moving," Danny stammered, each word a struggle against the tightening grip of panic that twisted his insides. The house seemed to throb around them, walls creaking as the air grew thick and stale, almost as if the very structure were alive and aware. He could hear whispers again, urgent and unintelligible, rising and falling like a chilling tide. They seemed to seep from every crevice, mixing with the pounding rain and the wild wind outside, an unholy symphony that harmonized with their own frantic breathing. "Danny!" Miguel shouted. "Through the kitchen! We'll find an exit!" But before he could finish, an echoing crash erupted from the living room. It sounded like glass shattering, splintering into 1,000 pieces that danced through the air like sharp raindrops. Danny's heart dropped, terror clawing at the back of his throat. "What was that?" Elena gasped, her hand gripping Danny's forearm painfully tight. But a voice rose above the chaos, a mocking tone that resonated through the dark, cutting through their fear like a knife. "Don't run from me," it crooned, smooth and sultry, lacing the air with a chill that made the hair on Danny's arms stand on end. "Keep going," Miguel urged, shoving them forward. Danny could barely think, but instincts kicked in. They needed to get out, away from the figure waiting in the doorway, those wide, shining eyes filled with malevolence. Another crash echoed behind them, a cabinet exploding open, spilling its contents like shattered dreams. Fruits rolled and vegetables tumbled, the bright colors stark against the dark floor. It was almost surreal, like a twisted painting brought to life, but the fear was all too real. They reached the kitchen. The back door loomed before them, a haven that felt like a mirage. Danny's hands fumbled to grab the knob, but it wouldn't budge. He pulled harder, adrenaline fueling his desperation, but it remained steadfast, defiantly locked against their escape. "Danny!" Elena frantically pulled at him, her eyes wide with terror. "We have to go!" "I know!" he yelled back, panic spilling into his voice. Just then, the breathy laughter of the woman floated through the room. "You can't escape what's already inside." A cold dread washed over him. He could feel the tendrils of that insidious presence curling around their minds, creeping into their very thoughts. The lights flickered above them, casting haunting shadows that danced along the walls. And that's when Danny noticed something shifting in the corner. The darkness was thickening. A shape began to detach from the shadows, inching toward them with deliberate slowness. It moved like smoke, coalescing into an almost human figure, eyes gleaming like stars in a dead sky. Danny's breath caught in his throat. This was no illusion. "Get away from us!" Miguel shouted, putting himself in front of Elena and Danny, a feeble barrier against the approaching horror. But instead of fear, a strange calm washed over Danny as he stared into those swirling depths. What did it want? What did it know? "Are you ready to see what's hidden?" the entity hissed as the air grew colder still. A sick feeling twisted Danny's stomach. What if this was just the beginning?
As the shadows stretched toward them, acting like hands grasping for flesh, Danny could feel his grip on reality slipping. Shadows were becoming more than just darkness. They were a promise, a secret waiting to be revealed. And just before the darkness engulfed them completely, a blinding light flickered on from the hallway. "Danny!" Elena cried, pointing. What awaited them in that light was yet another mystery, another layer to the horror that had already begun to unfold. But in this moment, with their world teetering on the edge of unknown terror, one thought burned brighter than all others. Could they uncover the truth before it consumed them whole? The light pulsed like a heartbeat, and for an instant it felt like safety. But Danny's instinct screamed otherwise. He could sense the entity poised at the edge of the illumination, relishing their hesitation. The air grew thick again, almost electric, as the shadows twisted into sinister shapes, contorting into vague figures that danced behind the brightness, feeding off their fear. "We have to go!" Miguel shouted again, urgency splattering his voice like paint. He pushed past the trembling threshold, pulling Danny and Elena along. The hallway stretched before them, an abyss of flickering light and curling shadows. Danny dared a glance back. The entity was shifting, its form melting into a darker shape, as if it was feeding on the despair radiating from them. "Run!" Danny yelled as they sprinted down the corridor. The fluorescent bulb overhead fluttered like a wounded insect, bathing everything in a strobe-like flash. Each flicker revealed glimpses of just how trapped they were. The walls closed in, warping into tight, suffocating spaces, as if the house itself was clutching at them, desperate to keep them inside. "Elena!" Miguel snapped, realizing she lagged behind as terror anchored her feet. "Come on!" She finally broke free, her face white. "I can't," she whimpered, pointing behind. Refreshing dread washed over Danny as he turned to see the darkness spilling into the hallway, chasing them like a ravenous beast. It twisted and swirled, hungry whispers clawing at his ears. "You can't escape," they hissed, echoing in ugly cacophony. Danny pulled Elena forward, their steps quicken, each hurried breath filled with panic. They charged past doors that lined the walls, each one seemingly more foreboding than the last. "There's gotta be a way out," he shouted, desperation bubbling in his chest. But the hallway ended. It opened into a vast room they had not seen before, the living room, or what remained of it. The once comforting space was a graveyard of overturned furniture and shattered glass. Moonlight filtered through the broken windows, painting eerie patterns on the floor with silver light and darkness. "Look!" Elena's voice broke through the chaos. She pointed to a shuttering window, cracked open about a foot, rain pouring down in sorrowful sheets. "We can escape through there!" The spectral laughter chased them again, taunting their every move. They dashed toward the window, but just as Danny reached for the frame, the laughter intensified, swirling with malicious delight. "Good choice," it slithered through the air. "Stay just a little longer." Miguel grabbed at the window, frantically trying to force it open. "Danny, help!" Danny's pulse raced. The shadows were closing in, thickening until it felt like a weight pressing down on him. "Hurry!" The whispering intensified, mixing with the howling wind outside. Dark figures began materializing all around the room, eyes glimmering with malevolence. Each had a face, twisted, haunted, as if they had been trapped here like the kids. "Almost there," Miguel grunted as he pressed harder against the window. Then Danny noticed something in the corner of his eye, movement among the shadows. A figure, distorted and ghostly, was reaching for him, fingertips stretching with unnatural hunger. "Danny!" Elena screamed, causing him to snap his gaze back. "Got it!" Miguel finally cried as the window gave way and the glass shattered, spraying tiny shards like deadly confetti. "Go!" Danny shouted, shoving Elena out first. He could feel the entity's breath on his neck, icy and suffocating. He launched himself through the window, glass biting into his skin. As he tumbled into the night, he could hear laughter following them, echoing down the hall as the darkness reached for him, desperate to reclaim what it had lost. The rain washed over him, but that cold feeling of dread didn't wash away. It settled in his bones, whispering warnings he couldn't ignore. What had they awakened? The group scrambled to their feet, catching their breath, but the shadows of the house and those within still loomed large in their hearts. "Where do we go now?" Elena gasped, the wild intensity glimmering in her eyes. "Do you hear that?" Miguel whispered, his face falling as a low hum enveloped them. Danny clenched his fists, feeling it too. The resonance, like a heartbeat just below the surface, pulsating with dark promises. It was drawing them in, a siren's call, and the question lingered ominously in the air. What if the true horror awaited still outside, hidden beneath the guise of the familiar world they thought they were escaping? The rain hammered down, each drop a cold slap against their skin. Danny's heart raced. Was it just the house calling him back, or something else entirely? The darkness danced at the edges of his vision, teasing, lurking, and watching. "Follow me!" Danny shouted, feeling adrenaline surge. They scrambled
away from the house, but the shadows seemed to stretch like fingers, clawing at their heels. The ground was slick, muddy, and treacherous, but they pushed on, driven by fear. The road ahead was littered with abandoned cars, their windows fogged with years of neglect. It felt like a graveyard. The air was heavy with something otherworldly, a stale scent of decay mixed with rain. Glancing back at the house, he felt a shudder. The figure stood at the window, shrouded in the dark, its eyes glinting with a hungry curiosity. "Keep moving," Miguel urged, pulling Elena toward a cluster of trees that lined the edge of the road. "We can't stop." But as they ducked under branches, a rustling noise broke through the curtain of rain behind them. It clawed through the air, scratchy like nails against wood. Danny turned his head just slightly, dread weaving through him like vines, and he glimpsed it. Something emerged from the shadows. It was a figure, hunched and elongated, more shadow than flesh. A twisted grin revealed teeth too sharp and too many. The entity moved with an unsettling grace, like it was weaving through the darkness, following their every move. "Miguel!" Danny shouted, panic rising in his chest. "It's coming! Run!" Miguel's voice was a frantic bark, urging them to sprint. They raced deeper into the cover of trees, branches snapping underfoot, their breath coming in ragged gasps. Danny tore through the foliage and stumbled onto the edge of a clearing. In that moment, the moonlight broke through the clouds, illuminating a strange sight. A stone altar stood in the center, covered with symbols that seemed to writhe like living things. What is this place?" Elena's voice trembled as she stepped closer. An inscription caught Danny's eye, letters twisted and chaotic, almost pulsating with dark energy. "It's like a shrine. We shouldn't be here." The dark figure, now closer, moved silently. It slipped into the clearing, its eyes locked on them, burning with a dreadful hunger. Danny could feel the weight of danger pressing down on him, crawling beneath his skin. "Back!" Miguel shouted, fear sharp in his voice. They retreated, but the entity's presence thickened like fog, smothering any sense of safety. "Danny, we have to do something!" Elena cried out. "Maybe we can destroy it," he started, but his mind raced. He needed time to think, time they didn't have. The entity lunged, and it was horrifyingly fast. Danny's instincts kicked in, and he pulled Elena back just as it swiped at her. The breath whooshed out of him.
"We can't let it touch us," he yelled, adrenaline coursing through him. They stumbled back toward the altar, just in time to push against it, nearly toppling it as the figure writhed outside the edge of the light. It recoiled as though it could be burned by the light pouring down on the stone. "The altar! It's a barrier!" Miguel yelled, grabbing at a jagged stone from the ground.
"Use it!" Danny urged, desperation threading into his voice. But as they fumbled to create a defense, the rain stilled abruptly, and the atmosphere thickened, surging with tension. A low rumble echoed through the air, a sound both menacing and ancient. Suddenly, the shadows deepened, swirling, and the figures began to emerge from the dark trees. There was more than one. Shapes, ghostly and silent, surrounded them, spectral faces twisted in agony, mouths moving silently in unison, their eyes wide and hollow. Elena's scream shattered the air. "There's too many!" And in that moment, the world slipped away. The trees closed in, the shadows thickened, and the figures' whispers flooded their minds with despair. What had they truly awakened? The dark pulse of the night drew tighter, wrapping around them like a noose. Just as Danny turned to face the gathering shadows, he realized the true horror wasn't just the darkness around them, but what waited in the depths of their own hearts, lurking and watching, ready to strike. Would they fight or succumb to the terror? And would escape even be an option now? The shadows pressed in on all sides, closing tighter like a shroud. Danny felt the oppressive weight of dread clawing at him. Fear hung thick in the air, almost a tangible thing, a suffocating reminder of their imminent peril. He glanced sideways at Miguel and Elena. Their faces were pale, marked by terror and disbelief. "Get ready!" Miguel shouted, gripping the jagged stone tightly. Its edge glinted in the pale moonlight. Elena's eyes scanned frantically, darting from one tormenting face to another, as if seeking some form of salvation. "Do you think it really works?" she whispered, her voice quivering. "What if?" "Just aim for them," Danny interrupted, feeling a surge of anger mixed with fear. "We have to fight back." The spectral forms twisted, drawn closer by desperation, their faces beginning to solidify into grotesque features of anguish. Each silent scream echoed in Danny's mind, bringing images of dark whispers and forgotten torment. One of the figures stepped closer, its hand reaching out with fingers that seemed to elongate. Instinctively, Danny swung the stone, but it passed right through the figure, hovering just above the altar's edge, dissipating into a swirl of mist. "No! No! What the hell?" The entity snickered, an ethereal laughter that sent chills down Danny's spine. It was a haunting sound, the kind that crawled beneath your skin and filled you with dread. The other figures responded as if commanded, their movements synchronized like marionettes, all drawn to the altar that pulsed with dark energy. "We're not strong enough," Miguel's voice broke through the tension. "We need something more. We need to break the barrier. We have to destroy it." Danny felt panic threatening to consume him. But how? It's just a bunch of rocks. He looked at the altar, and it suddenly seemed more than just stone. It pulsed with an alive energy, as if it were aware of their fear. "Maybe," Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper, "maybe it needs a sacrifice." The words hung thick in the air, suffused with unease. The figures shifted, their ghostly faces morphing into grotesque smiles. It was as if they understood her suggestion. "No way!" Danny shook his head, horrified. "We can't just give something up! We can't!" Yet, as the threats circled closer, Danny felt his resolve start to waver. He could see the faces of those lost souls, the pain etched permanently in their expressions, and it ignited a dread within him. "No! We fight!" he shouted, attempting to rally his friends. He brandished the stone again, but this time a tremendous force shot through him as he remembered the inscription. What if it's not just any sacrifice? What do you mean? Miguel asked, confusion written all over his face. Maybe we can use something from them. Danny's mind raced. What if we could give them something in memory, something to appease them? Elena eyed the figures as they moved forward, their forms undulating with malice. They won't just let us. They'll come for us. How can we use their pain? The air shifted, charged with energy, and the whispers grew louder. It's too late for you, the dark voice echoed, slashing through their thoughts. Your souls will join us. Danny's heart thundered. They needed time to figure out how to channel this energy, how to combat the darkness that sought to consume them. Then he remembered stories of altars, of offerings, of moments of choice. We can use our fears, our own pain, use it against them, he blurted out. Miguel and Elena stared at him, horror mingled with hope. But that means, Miguel started, if we each give a piece of what we fear most, maybe we can weaken their hold on us. Their hearts raced as realization dawned. The choice became palpable, a decision to lay bare their fears, risking everything, or succumb to the darkness pooling around them. A sudden rush of cold wind sheared through the clearing, making the shadows ripple like a disturbed pond. The figures surged forward, their eyes burning with rage, hungry for the souls they intended to claim. Would they embrace their own fears, sacrificing bits of themselves to fight back? The altar throbbed at that moment, beckoning with a dark promise. But as they prepared to confront the whirlwind of pain and terror, one question hinted at the back of their minds. Would their fears be enough to save them? Or would they find that true darkness lies within? Danny's breath quickened as a sharp wind whipped around them, twisting the shadows into monstrous shapes. The figures moved closer, their twisted faces eager for torment, leaving streaks of dismal whispers that coiled around their throats. He felt trapped, the weight of fear pressing down, suffocating any semblance of hope. "We need to do this now!" Elena shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. She grasped Miguel's arm, fingers digging in, as if heralding their last unity. "They're not waiting for us to decide!" Danny swallowed hard, searching the dark abyss for any hint of clarity, anything that could guide them. "We fold our fears and confront them together!" he yelled, a desperate rallying cry amid the frenzy. But the dark figures laughed, a low, chilling sound that sent shivers down Danny's spine. Their laughter harmonized with the rustling leaves, as if the very earth mocked him. "You think your paltry fears can save you?" The voice rippled with malevolence, echoing around them like haunting memories. "You'll feel your pain soon enough." Danny's heart raced. Behind him, Miguel steadied himself, gripping the jagged stone with white knuckles. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. "Tell me what to do! I'm ready to fight!" Elena's eyes locked with Danny's, filled with determination laced with dread. It's now or never. Do we reveal our fears or let them take us? The figures lunged forward, and in that moment, the reality of their situation struck Danny like a lightning bolt. They were at the altar, teetering on the edge of despair. You don't look back. You confront the monster. "Okay," he shouted, fists clenched around the stone. "I'll go first. My fear is losing everyone I love." Shadows shuddered at his declaration, howling faintly as if fearing the truth laid bare. "Danny!" Miguel exclaimed, horror washing over his face. "Don't! They'll feed off that!" But Danny stood firm. He closed his eyes, and memories flooded in. Moments with his family, laughter turned to silence, and faces consumed by the fog of loss. He opened his mouth to yell, "Keep your grip on me!" and thrust the stone forward, envisioning a blast of light. The stone flared with sudden fire, and the dark mist recoiled, faces twisting in frustration and anger. "Sacrificing means standing in pain," Elena cried. "My turn!" She stepped up, daring the shadows, voice trembling but powerful. "I fear being forgotten in a world where no one remembers me." The shadows howled, swirling violently, as if hit by an unseen wave. They hesitated, momentarily unsettled by Elena's raw admission. The energy of her words expanded, creating a shimmering barrier between them and the wailing entities. Miguel's turn arrived, breath hitching. "I fear the dark depths of my own mind, being trapped in a nightmare that never ends." He plunged the stone forward, releasing his terror like a spell. Light burst forth, illuminating the clearing, causing the figure's ghoulish forms to flicker like candle flames. The ground trembled, as if the very earth cried out against the darkness. Yet, in the moment of their shared strength, doubt crawled back into Danny's mind. What if our fears don't hold? Are we just feeding them more power? And then, as the figures receded momentarily, the realization hit them hard like a punch. They were running out of time. "We need one last push!" Danny shouted, panic igniting within him, urging them to finish what they started. With terror, they gathered, holding tightly to the stone. Every heartbeat echoed the urgency of their circumstances. "Together, then," Elena whispered, adrenaline coursing through her as she looked at Danny and Miguel. "We face them as one." But darkness gathered once more, thickening into a sinister tide around the altar, the whispers morphing into a demonic chant, taunting, promising eternal suffering. Danny's heart raced as blinding shadows breached their defenses. Were they strong enough? Could facing their fears actually defeat the dark forces wrapping around them? The altar pulsed ominously. Their final chants hung in the air, tantalizing yet terrifying. Would they embrace the shadows within, or would the darkness swallow them before they could find out? The cruelty of fate loomed heavy, and they stood on the precipice, teetering between salvation and despair. Danny's heart pounded like a war drum. The shadows roiled around them, swirling with a life of their own, as if eager to consume their courage. Holding the stone felt like gripping pure fear itself, heavy, unyielding. Around them, the air thickened and the stench of decay hit hard, making his stomach churn. "We can do this!" Elena shouted, though her voice wavered. It was a rallying cry that felt like a fragile thread. Miguel, eyes wide with panic, nodded vigorously, though doubt seeped from every pore. The dark figures loomed closer, shadows merging to form grotesque limbs that stretched out toward them like hungry claws. "You really think you can win this? You're just prolonging the inevitable." Their voice was a cacophony of mockery, full of venomous delight. Danny clenched his jaw, trembling with terror but refusing to surrender. "We need to let it all out." He took a deep breath. "I fear the monsters within myself." His shout pierced the cacophony, and for a split second, silence fell. The shadows flinched, pulsing as the stone blazed brighter, sending a burst of light that pushed them back. Moans filled the air, contrasting with the fiery glow surrounding them. But he could feel the truth of his confession slithering back into him, feeding doubt. What if admitting that fear meant they were doomed? Elena instinctively stepped forward now, emboldened. "And I fear losing my sanity, a world spiraling into madness without any escape." The figures writhed, shrieking as the very fabric of their darkness split under her words. The light surged, pushing outward like a shockwave, but the torment hung like cold winds, whispering promises of despair.
Miguel took a step back, terror etched on his face. What if they come back stronger? He stroked the stone, clenching it tightly as if it would combust from the pressure of his grip. Doubt washed over him, threatening to shadow his resolve. Yet something in him ignited, a spark refusing to flicker out. I fear never knowing the truth about my past, being a puzzle with missing pieces. He bellowed, releasing the words like cannon fire. The shadows hesitated, recoiling from their collective honesty, but the respite was fleeting. Their shrieks morphed into a demonic chant, taunting, promising eternal suffering. Miguel took a step back, terror etched on his face. What if they come back stronger? He stroked the stone, clenching it tightly as if it would combust from the pressure of his grip. Doubt washed over him, threatening to shadow his resolve. Yet something in him ignited, a spark refusing to flicker out. I fear never knowing the truth about my past, being a puzzle with missing pieces. He bellowed, releasing the words like cannon fire. The shadows hesitated, recoiling from their collective honesty, but the respite was fleeting. Their shrieks morphed.
Danny felt the ground shake, an earthquake chiming in tune with their fears laid bare. The altar crackled ominously, and he could feel its energy fluctuating, pulsing in rhythm with his bleeding heart. "Keep going," Elena urged, galvanizing their weary spirits. "We have to push harder." In a frenzy, they shared their despair, secrets spilling out in a torrent, a chorus of fears mingling in the air, filling the clearing with anguish. Each confession lit sparks of luminous hope, but the shadows were relentless, closing in, twining like serpents. "Do you feel that?" Danny shouted as the ground quaked violently beneath them. The stone pulsed, fighting against the darkness. "It's shifting! We must dig deeper! Our fears are our power!" Suddenly, a shadow surged toward Elena, its jagged claws reaching for her throat. "Submit or be devoured! Your fears are weak," it bellowed. "Hold on!" Miguel yelled, drawing nearer to Danny and Elena, panic blending with urgency. "I'm not afraid!" Elena cried defiantly, barely managing to keep her footing. "No more hiding!" But the shadows retaliated, slashing through their newfound confidence, creating a vortex of writhing darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. The earth rumbled, the altar shuddering violently beneath the weight of their souls. "Danny!" Miguel shouted, grasping him tightly. "Help me, if we can't stay strong!" A piercing scream erupted from Elena, echoing in the void. In that very moment, Danny caught a glimpse of flickering lights, what appeared to be fractured reflections of themselves, trapped in a dark mirror. Were they just echoes of their fears, or could the truth set them free? The shadows surged again, and with eerie intensity they whispered, "Embrace the darkness, or be lost forever." In that fragile heartbeat, uncertainty clawed at their resolve. Would their combined strength be enough to vanquish the looming darkness? Or was this the darkness whispering their end? The altar flickered ominously, and struggle was reflected on their faces. What if the final confrontation was about to unveil a truth darker than their fears? The suffocating weight of despair hung heavy, and they braced for the inevitable storm. The shadows lunged, an overwhelming surge of darkness that felt alive, as if it could taste their fear. Danny's heart hammered against his ribcage, pulsating with dread. The altar flickered, a dim light holding back the horrors inching closer, ready to swallow them whole. "Stay strong!" Miguel shouted, gripping Danny's shoulder.
They formed a tight circle, united by trembling resolve. The shadows hissed, whispering chilling promises of despair that invaded their minds. "Remember why we are fighting!" Elena's voice rang like a beacon, breaking through the chaos. "We can't let them win!" Danny took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage he had left. "I fear the darkness within myself," he bellowed again, defiance woven into his tone. "The monster lurking under my skin!" With that admission, the ground quaked beneath them again, and the shadows recoiled, their howls morphing into agonized
cries. The stone pulsed with a brighter light, shimmering in response to his declaration. Energized, Elena stepped forward, locking eyes with the darkness. "And I fear a world where I'm forgotten, where no one sees me." Her voice surged with emotion, breaking through the suffocating air. The shadows twisted, flailing in torment as the brilliant light danced around them. Yet doubt lingered at the edges of Danny's mind. "Keep it going," Miguel urged, his hands tightening around the stone. "We have to give them everything. The truth of my past, that every piece of me has been lost." He bellowed in a rush, warmth blooming from the center of his chest like a fire ignited by kindling. As they spoke their truths, the earth protested, rumbling beneath their feet. The dark figures shimmered, visibly agitated, spiraling back while their whispers surged into a furious pitch. "You're fueling your own demise," they hissed, mouths stretching into gruesome grins. Without hesitation, Danny grabbed Elena's hand, anchoring her against the tightening grip of shadows. "We can't back down. We finish this together. The truth of my past, that every piece of me has been lost," he bellowed in a rush, warmth blooming from the center of his chest like a fire ignited by kindling. As they spoke their truths, the earth protested, rumbling beneath their feet. The dark figures shimmered, visibly agitated, spiraling back, while their whispers surged into a furious pitch. "You're fueling your own demise!" they hissed, mouths stretching into gruesome grins. Without hesitation, Danny grabbed Elena's hand, anchoring her against the tightening grip of shadows. "We can't back down. We finish this together." They stepped forward, united, hands gripping the stone tightly. "Let's face them as one," they chanted in unison. "Our fears are our strength." The darkness drew closer, yet with each revelation, a figure faltered. They began to slip, their forms distorting under the weight of their confessions. The shadows writhed, and in that moment, Danny realized fear held power, but truth held more. The stone erupted with bright light, igniting the clearing like dawn breaking through the longest night. "Expose yourselves!" Danny howled. As light surrounded them, the figures screamed in agony, their true forms exposed. They were nothing but echoes of pain, manifestations of despair that had lingered far too long. Memories of the tortured lost souls they could not save filled Danny's mind, the pain of their existence spilling into the present. And then something shifted. Danny's heart pounded as he felt a warmth flowing over him, a sense of never-ending support. "Don't just stand there, let's push together," Miguel shouted, his face set in fierce determination. Each of them held on to the stone, channeling everything they had into its blazing light. "You won't take us!" Elena screamed, and with it, a surge rippled through the atmosphere. As they held their truths high, the shadows began to unravel. The light expanded, crashing against the darkness with radiating force. "Your time is over!" they shouted, emotions woven into the fibers of their voices. The dark figure shrieked again, but this time it sounded different, more like whispers of sorrow than fury. The shadows split, cascading like raw silk, giving way to the dawn. With one final push, a brilliant pulse shot from the stone, ripping through the night. The point of light ignited the altar, causing it to shatter beneath the weight of their resolve. The darkness surged one final time,
howling, teasing, before it burst apart into brilliant motes that scattered like stars across the sky, swallowed by the embrace of dawn.
And shaken, the three stood together, clutching one another, hearts pounding with the raw force of survival. "We did it!" Elena breathed out, tears spilling down her cheeks, her fear washed away by relief. But as the echoes of battle faded, a feeling lingered. The pain of loss will always remain. The shadows may have retreated, but the fight against inner demons and collective fears was an endless journey that would continue to follow them like vigilant guardians. "Is it really over?" Danny asked, his voice trembling, uncertainty edged in every word. Miguel rested a hand on Danny's shoulder, meeting his gaze. "No, but we have each other. Together, we can face anything." As dawn broke over the horizon, warmth flooded their hearts. They stepped into the light, emboldened by love and friendship. They would carry their fears, but they wouldn't let those fears claim them. Together, they would rewrite their future, one step at a time. And as they walked away, a soft whisper curled through the air, a promise wrapped in hope. You are more than your shadows. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.